Masyado ba akong mataas? Nakakalula. Good afternoon to everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Are there any Muslims in this group? No one? Can we just do a little language course? Parang nasabi naman yung natutunan kayo sa amin. You know the meaning of salam, right? What does it mean? Peace. Normally, when I used to campaign a lot all over the country, I always begin by teaching them how we use salam. And I always tell them, at the end of Mass, or close to the end of Mass, but when you turn to each other, what do you say? Peace be with you. So my request to you is, when you turn to each other this Sunday at Mass, instead of saying peace be with you, be exotic and say salam. Because that's exactly what it means. Peace be with you. And if somebody comes to you and tells you peace be with you, you can say the same thing. So come across something very exotic and strike one for interfaith dialogue. So I'd like to thank all of you, your very thin professor, Alfred. Did you see him before he made his transformation? Yes. Amazing. It is interesting to say, he is half the man he used to be. So I'd like to thank Alfred and the officers of, what do you call it, Purple Force? I'd like to thank all of you for inviting the Philippine Council for Islamic Democracy to partner with you in making this presentation on a very important aspect of our life, and that is the situation in Mindanao. I'd also like to thank the students for coming here. I hope that this is a clear signal that you really are interested in what's happening in the South. Baka naman mamaya, this is just for purposes of compliance. Ilang credit pesos? Not to worry. We will make this worth your while. At the very least, we've got Commissioner Taha Bachman here who will also talk to you about what they're trying to do, sponsored by the UNESCO in interfaith dialogue and discussions about cultural aspects naman tahan. Anyway, they asked us to give you a little briefing about what's happening to development in Mindanao, and specifically Muslim Mindanao. You are interested in the donors. Now, are you interested in the donors because you're thinking that perhaps you will have a career with the development agency? That's not such a bad idea, you know. You can kawang-kawa all you want and be paid with dollars. Pretty good deal. So let's take a look at conflict in arms and the development process. Little background lang. Next. Just to introduce to you why there is so much call for development in Muslim Mindanao. Well, lahat ng ito, ang punong dulo, is the signing of the 1996 peace agreement. That was 11 years ago. Why did you have a peace agreement? Because at that time, you were having tremendous amount of armed conflict between government and the Moro National Liberation Front. You are familiar with the MNLF, right? You know who Nur Miswari is? Yeah. So Nur Miswari and the MNLF were agreed with government to stop the fighting and have a peace process. They signed the agreement in 1996. After the signing of the agreement, development institutions became interested in providing funding for areas of conflict in Muslim Mindanao. Now, why did you have the MNLF? For that, you have to look at what Mindanao was like many, many, many years ago. Mindanao used to be the land that was held by the Muslims and by the indigenous peoples of Mindanao. If you look at the Muslim tribes, there are about 13 tribes who are Muslim in faith. Now, before, let's just take you back, say, 50 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. 50 to 60 years ago, 75% of Mindanao were held by Muslims and by the indigenous people. 75%. So anywhere you went, Davao, Zamboanga, Bukidnon, the owners were mostly Muslims or indigenous people. But it took less than 50 years to change that ratio. So sometime in the 50s, 60s, the ratio was already 25% Muslims and indigenous people and 75% Christians. Now the Christians were not natives. These are not, yung mga katutubon na nag-convert to Christianity. These were Christian settlers who came from Luzon and Visayas. Therefore, they were not native Mindanaoans. So, ang mga nangyari, the Muslims and the indigenous peoples were pushed back. Today, you will find that the Muslims are mainly in southern Mindanao, the island provinces of Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, part of Palawan. So, medyo a group of people that used to own the bulk of Mindanao, all of a sudden, are minorities in their own homeland. The Muslim tribes of the Philippines consider themselves as nations. That's why Bangsa Moro nation. We are not tribes, we are nations, we are peoples, because we are distinct from you. Different culture, different language, different food, different manner of dressing, different religion. And we used to have a different form of government. Up to now, we still have vestiges of the form of government. So if you look, next please. So if you look at the making, the different Moro tribes, totoo talaga, we are different people. Dr. Steve Root of the Asia Foundation. So,